All right. Welcome to this guide. So basically, what this guide is providing is the quickest method to actually enter the DLC without having to grind too far into the base game. Um, Unfortunately, in order to reach the DLC, you're gonna have to sacrifice a few things in order to get there, and this is including defeating certain demigod bosses. I've done the calculations. I've done many runs with this method, and it's very consistent. But you're gonna have to defeat Godric and to access Moog early, and then you have to defeat Moog and Radon. Um, the alternative method for this to enter the DLC is to defeat uh, to reach Moog is through Consecrated Snowfield, but if you do that route, you're gonna have to defeat Morgoth. That's one demigod boss. Then you're gonna have to defeat two other demigod bosses to enter Leyndell to meet Morgoth. And so it's either gonna be Renala, Radon, or Godric. So by that point, you've already defeated four demigod bosses or more just to get into the DLC. So the method I'm providing is actually the quickest. Um, you're also going to have to clear out a few different locations for upgrade materials because you need to get into the DLC and be able to upgrade your weapon. Otherwise, and the DLC is a very difficult game. Like it's on a whole new level compared to the base, even the end game of the base, the base game. And so you're going to have to like come in prepared. You don't want to get into the DLC and have no upgrade materials, and you're just gonna have to go back to the base game again and start grinding from there again, and that's really really boring. I don't think anyone wants to do that. You're also gonna have to sacrifice some quest lines while doing this guide, this run, and some of those are like Vari's quest line to reach Moog, Yura's quest line for upgrade materials. You'll have to do Patch's quest line. There's a little bit of grinding in this guide for a certain item, but that's fine. That's really up to the player. Um, but yeah, this run does offer some really good benefits. It's basically a plus 10 Somber weapon for the DLC or a plus 23 Smithing Stone weapon. And a 23 Smithing Stone weapon is almost fully upgraded, so that's really good. And the run also, by the time you get the DLC, you'll have 12 tier flasks, which is really good. You can split 10-2 or even like 9-3. You'll definitely be like ready for the DLC if you when you enter it. Um, but like I said, there's really one important thing to consider is you need to do some planning before you go into the DLC because with this run, your character will not be high enough level to actually invest a lot of you know uh throw some stat points away. It's gonna be quite tight. So on stat points. So you really need to do some planning here. And I'm gonna give you guys a few examples of that. So the first example is one of my friends actually wanted to run the Milady in their run, and so like I said, multiple runs with this, and there's a lot of consistent methods to do this with. But basically, so we're just like I want you to go to this page first and choose the weapon you want from the DLC. Another important thing to consider is don't choose a DLC weapon that requires you to defeat like multiple bosses. For example, like if you want Mesmer's Spear, I'm sorry, that's kind of out of reach because unless you're really good at the game, you're gonna have to go through a long run and defeat Mesmer at a level like 88 or 90, and that's very difficult. So definitely choose a weapon that is within your grasp, like early game. And I think Fextra Life has a video on I think 19 early game weapons you can pick up, just pretty much running into the DLC and just picking it up. So I definitely recommend checking out that video. I'll definitely link it in the description here. But yeah, back to my guide. So basically, my friend said they wanted to run the Milady, and so, for example, you definitely want to look at the stats that the lady provides. The these requirements are 12 strength and 17 dexterity. And I've already done a run with this, or as in like I've already created a guide on how to get this, or done a run on how to get this is because this weapon is a smithing stone weapon, and which means you need to save your smithing stones when you go into the DLC. So the weapon you want to use is a somber weapon. So, and the best weapon is just perfectly suited. The best weapon, the Bloodhound's Fang. It's 18 strength and 17 dexterity, but this 18 strength can actually be turned into 12 strength because if you two-hand a weapon, it's 33% strength requirement less than it is to if you one hand it. So this is the weapon we're gonna actually use to go into the DLC. It's one of the best weapons in the game, and it just makes everything much easier. And you also want to look at the type of class. Believe for the Milady run, I actually chose a samurai class because the stats are just perfectly aligned. Like you can pretty much, if you look at this stats right here of the samurai, the strength is already there. You can already two hand the Milady with the strength you have. You just have to add 2 points to dexterity, and then from there, whatever you need to do from there. My friend also said they wanted to run bleed, and of course, if you run an affinity, this means you have to like put in a some points, invest points into arcane as well. So I definitely recommend you pick up one of these the build calculator and actually kind of plan out what you're gonna do. So we're gonna choose samurai class for sure, and we're just gonna actually choose the Milady here. But as you can see, it shows you what you need to run the weapon. So that's 12 and 17, right? And just to show you actually how this works, so we're gonna do Bloodhound's Fang, and this is 18. But if you two hand it, you'll be able to run it with 12 strength. As you can see here, it's 18, but the red value has changed to a white, which means it's valid with 12 strength. So, and then dexterity is both 15. So, and like I said, invest 2 points here, and there you are. You can run the Milady in the DLC once you get there, or and pick up the weapon. Um, I've done multiple runs with this, like I said, and the runs are very consistent. Most characters are going to be, or sorry, all your characters are going to be at least 88, level 88, and at most 90. So that just shows you how consistent this run is. But basically, like I said, the DLC hits very hard, so you definitely want to invest points into Vigor by the time you get there. You won't have 50 Vigor. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. You also need some dexterity for your weapon to get there because fighting bosses with a minimum level, like even if the Bloodhound's Fang is a level 10, it does become quite difficult. So you definitely want some points to invest there. When you look at your character, you want to actually level up two statistics. So one is definitely vigor. If your weapon is a strength weapon, you want to level strength. If your weapon is high, like split, then you want to split it enough that you have enough damage to beat the bosses. Um, but yeah, like I said, my friend wanted to run the Milady with bleed. Now you can see, luckily, it's very high dex scaling, and so we're basically this stat right here is basically how it's gonna go. We can technically level up to 40 vigor, and like I said, we have 88 points, right, from my characters to level up, and we're currently still at 62. So maybe put 2 points in endurance. You don't want to level up mind because we don't have enough points for that. Um, and then you would like probably run some arcane just in case. But mostly it's going to be these two stats that you want to level up before going into the DLC. Arcane comes in second once you pick up the Milady and level up. Um, for example, here's another good example. If you want to run the Great Katana, right? You're definitely going to use the Bloodhound's Fang again. Uh, we're just going to put Great Katana, right? This one is, I think it's 14 strength. Yes. So you're just going to invest 2 more points into that, and now you can one-hand the Great Katana if you get into the DLC. So pretty much the exact same thing. But let's definitely show you another example. I'm going to show you an example of a somber weapon in the DLC that you can pick up early, but requires a lot of points. And you want to choose a weapon that doesn't invest a lot of points in different categories. So I've already done a run with this as well. So there's one weapon called the Anvil Hammer. I won't tell you where it is because it's a little bit of spoilers, but as you can see, it's a lot of points in strength and 20 in dexterity. But if you run a certain class, basically, you don't need dexterity. For this one, I actually chose the Prophet class, and the reason why is dexterity is already lined up for Prophet, so I don't have to invest any points there. I'm not wasting any points either. Samurai has 15 dexterity, which means you're wasting 5 points. So all I have to do is level up strength, and there you go. At 26 strength, I can two-hand this weapon, and you're most likely going to two-hand the Anvil Hammer. You're not going to one-hand swing this thing. And the reason why I chose this as well is it has high faith, so you just invest 4 points into faith. That meets the faith requirement. You invest 4 points in intelligence, and there you go, voila. And still level 67, so I can level up my character a little more. Actually, you could probably reach 39 and level up vigor to 45. And there you go. That's roughly where the level stacks right there. So this means you're going to be able to go into the DLC and use the Anvil Hammer. But for that run, I did not use a Bloodhound's Fang because I wanted to keep my Somber Stones. I basically used the Flamberge. Not Flamberge, sorry. It was a strength weapon. Oh, I used the Great Stars. But that runs a little more complicated, so I'll definitely make a guide on that sometime. But for now, this guide is pretty much for the Milady or any smithing stone weapon that is focused on dexterity and doesn't have so many points invested here. So, with further ado, let's actually get to the gameplay.